All right, how's it going, everybody? This is another episode of Just in Our Minds. Thank you for listening. Today, we did have a guest, and he wasn't able to make it. So what we're going to speak on today, I threw together some ideas. One of the best things you can have in life is discipline. You got to have a balance of discipline and a little bit of fun, because I've been on both sides to where I was under-disciplined, and a lot of things in my life, I would let the grasp of success get by me because I just wasn't checking all the boxes. One of the number one things is going to be consistency, because consistency helps build success. And what I mean by that is when you start something, a lot of times we have a time to want to fail or the idea of failure, and we don't want to push. Most people end up failing, but they don't realize that it could just be a lesson. One of the things that I've been battling with in the last 2 years is I lost discipline, I lost consistency, I lost purpose, and that was because I had multiple friends pass away. I lost a good relationship with somebody that was a best friend and somebody I love dearly. It was like a partnership. And I just stopped checking my boxes. I wasn't visiting my core values the same way I should. And I ended up getting a ketamine prescription, and that started out as like a gram a month nasal spray, and that continued so on and so forth. And then it spiraled into, in the last year and a half, to where I was doing it habitually, and I started going daily, and then day after day. And then after a while, it became a pretty big problem. So I'll save that for another podcast, but I do want to get into that. So I grew up and I didn't have consistency. I didn't have discipline. I had a small level of discipline, but I would always fall short, and I didn't have a lot of self-confidence in some aspects of my life. It's not even that it wasn't just self-confidence. I didn't feel like I deserved it. And, I didn't grow up around the most positively productive people that would help with giving you like an upbeat view on yourself. So what's the word I'm looking for? Positive re-encouragement. It wasn't always there. My parents tried, but they didn't have a ton either when they were growing up. So the way my family would communicate is joking and lashing at each other, and a sense of humor. So that happens a lot too. Survival of the fittest. Like I said, like I always say, my family tried their best. We all love each other, but sometimes it's an interesting way to show self-love. So discipline, it allows you to take action. So when you're disciplined, and like forms of discipline is going to be business, sleep, hydration, and just making sure that you have, I suggest most people at least try a 70-30 diet plan, to where you're consistent 70% of the time, and you're not just eating huge, like endless meals that are cheat meals, or always having like crazy cheat days. You're 70-30. It keeps sanity. And then once you can handle 70, then it might be an 80-20. But until then, I know we all still have those dopamine hits we want from those food and that comfort food, and just to keep our sanity. But here's the thing. So when you have discipline, there's something that's called motivation, and motivation can be an illusion. It's great to have motivation, but there's been so many times in my life where I don't have motivation. And you can make the excuse, or you can take the choice of not getting something done that you have written down or not written down, which I suggest writing stuff down. But the illusion of motivation, then we have a tendency of saying, hey, I don't know if I can do this because I'm not motivated right now. And we're 9 times out of 10, you're going to end up with a failure there. I can guarantee a lot of people probably think I get excited to go to the gym every morning. I get excited to do some of the other things I do. And that's not always the case. Some of the case, like, you have people like David Goggins that you think he's a master of discipline, which he is. But some of the times, like he says, I stand there or I sit down, I'm looking at my shoes for 30 fucking minutes. And I finally get them some bitches on. I go for a run regardless of the weather or whatever, so you just have to choose to do it. And that's where discipline comes into play. A lot of people find this idea that they want to be happy or they want to have this life, but they don't know how to get there. So you have the Grand Canyon theory. Grand Canyon theory means one of my friends, Josh Sanchez, told me about this, and I keep it in the back of my head. You see where you're at now, and then you look across the Grand Canyon, and then what you have is you can only see the final destination, but it looks so far to get there, and you don't focus downward on the path to be able to get across. It just looks endless, and all you can see is that gap. You can't jump it. You don't have a plane to fly over it. There's all these reasons why you can't do it. But if all you had to do was look down, you see you could develop a plan to get across because there's a trail. So discipline creates freedom. It creates freedom in your life. It'll help you be able to spawn the lifestyle that you want and you need. So for me, when I was ultimately disciplined, and I have been on and off my whole life, but all it takes is, 1 week, 1 day, one bad situation, you're going to fall back to your baseline, not just your highest of discipline. So if you can dial in a level of discipline every day, even if it's just 1% more than the day before, which we go over that one a lot, but it's a good one. You'll be able to create and control your time, your habits, and know and see awareness of what not to do. So as for me, substances have been in my life since I was, 11, 12, 13. So they can be bad habits. Drinking, stuff like that can be used as a tool. If you can handle in moderation, you can see when it gets bad. Drinking, smoking weed, whatever it may be, medicinal, herbs, whatever you want to call some of these things, pharmaceuticals, like there are a time and a place, and these are all tools that you can utilize. But if those things start taking you over as an individual and they become more of a crutch than a tool, then that's when you're going to need the discipline to make sure that you can dial that back in. And I like this quote. So it's like, you're not a slave to impulses, distractions, or chaos. You gain your power to live your life on your terms. And that's what the discipline can help do for you. One of the reasons why I even want to talk about this podcast today is because I let myself fall and lack discipline. Some of the people I started hanging out with had less discipline, and they encouraged me or enabled me to, and I take full responsibility. Regardless, it's my choice. But when I say this is, they do party more, or they did more things, and they are fun. But doing fun things sometimes can be catastrophic for you without discipline or without getting your stuff done. So one of the things that discipline helps you do is going to be build grit, mental toughness, and resilience. And the longer you spend without discipline, and the longer you look for the comfort blanket and the comfort of modern day society in our first world, the less likely you are going to have that mental discipline. You're not going to have that mental toughness, and it's going to be far easier for you to cave under pressure, which I did. What else discipline's going to help you do is build self-respect and confidence. When you can do the hard things, regardless if you want to or not, and you're not sitting around waiting for motivation to hit you, you're gonna find a new level. And that's where I feel like I think we should have unconditional love for ourselves, but that's very hard. It's something I'm 36. I'll say it, like, I've spent 36 years figuring out what I didn't want in life. And at the end of the day, like, if you can develop enough self-respect, you don't have to people please and need respect from other people to feel something inside yourself. A lot of that's going to come from discipline. And discipline, like the self-confidence, the self-respect, when you raise your standards and you can really create core values on who you are, who you want to be, and how and what purpose you can serve for yourself, your family, or for your life, you will notice that your self-worth will slowly start growing. And it doesn't matter about the car. It doesn't matter about the house, all these things, although those are reflections of discipline, and that's okay. But they're not you. So when you have the grit, you have the tenacity, and you're able to build these skill sets one by one, and you're stacking that foundation to be bulletproof through any weather, any trial and tribulation that God or whatever the universe throws at you. That's when that self-confidence gets boosted up. That's when, you're waking up at a decent time. You're going to sleep at a decent time. You're avoiding the parties. You're hanging out with people that serve your greater goals in life and the confidence of you moving forward, and not the individual or environments that just feed your bad habits and enable you to live in a a lower vibrational frequency than your highest self. Alignment and purpose. So discipline can lead you to your alignment and deeper goals. When you're living in alignment, which I've been on both sides, I've been out of orbit for myself and I've been in perfect alignment. Things just feel like they fall in a lot of the time. And it's just wild. It's such a good feeling to know that you're doing everything possible to get to your goals. And then when you check those goals, there's another one and another one. And it just becomes this consistent, it's always going to be uphill, especially if you're working for yourself. Apparently I think we've been put on this earth for the trials and tribulations. These soul contracts and different things we have aren't meant to keep us smiling and happy in the garden all the time. Although if you live that lifestyle, that's good for you. That should be a blessing in itself. But with discipline, you start building this level of internal trust that most people don't have, in my opinion. And for me, I noticed over the last 2 years and making wrong decisions and choosing the wrong path, investing into less than successful businesses, flipping upside down financially compared to where I was 2 years ago. It made me realize that I stopped trusting myself. And a big problem was because I was relying on substances. Like it could be caffeine doesn't make you a better person. Ketamine, opioid, whatever it is, alcohol. We all, not all of us, but most of us have that, whether it's a social anxiety or all these things, we're always looking for something that I need this to be this. And it's not true at the end of the day. I'm sure we could function just as well without some of these tools or crutches that we have. And I noticed with myself, as I was giving myself these excuses and not showing up for myself or my friends, I started losing trust in myself, and I was looking for other ways to save myself and then you just stop trusting your intuition, and you stop trusting, you start listening. So you have tools. It depends on which one you want to feed. One can be considered negative, one's positive. I like to call one your pain body or your ego, and then one your higher self. You need both. It's not a balancing act. I believe your ego and your higher self are a double helix that spins into infinity together, rather than trying to find or kill one or the other. But when you're feeding these two wolves and you can't hear your higher self or your conscience, whatever you want to call that, God, whatever that is, the universe, your guardian angels, whatever you believe in there, when you're not listening to that thing that is going to propel you to your greatest good, then you're feeding the other wolf. And that other wolf gets hungry a lot quicker than that good one. And then what happens is you start hearing the language differently. You stop understanding. If you're bilingual, you stop understanding that other language, and then you can only hear that one wolf. And that's when you start losing trust in yourself. And that's when, you start burning bridges potentially. That's when life seems like it gets more chaotic. And that's when you start digging that hole. And then that hole is created and opens up. And we have a tendency to fall in that hole. And it's really hard to get out of some of these holes just with our fingernails and our grip strength. With alignment, if you're not aligned with your purpose, or you don't have goals, you don't create discipline, it's so much easier to fall victim of self-sabotage and not being able to move forward in a meaningful life. We get stuck in this spiral that it feels like it infinitely goes down. And then you're spinning and spinning and spinning in the opposite direction of where your greatest success is going to be. So like self-sabotage, I know we've gone over that before with the self-worth, but it all ties in together. Since I've been on both sides of the fence, one of the greatest things I'll bring back is my high level of discipline. Maybe I'll give myself a little more grace, more self-love, these different things. I realize I'm maybe not somebody that needs to wake up at 4:30 in the morning, run on 4 or 5 hours of sleep and 500 milligrams of caffeine, because that also made me depressed. So for me, it's getting up, hydrating, maybe getting out barefoot in the grass, doing a little bit of breath work in the morning, going in, hitting the gym, and then you still have your whole day. But I do suggest you try to get at least 8 hours of sleep, 7 hours minimum. Some people can run off 6, but if you're drinking caffeine all day, you're not one of those people. Sorry. And then I would hydrate with minerals. Hydrating with minerals first thing in the morning, bring down your cortisol levels, and it'll upregulate your nervous system, your mitochondria. Everything will help function pretty well. So, and then if you can, just sit down and whether you can meditate, just close your eyes, count back from 100. If you can learn to have tools and skill sets, even a couple, box breathing, 4 seconds, 4 seconds, 4 seconds. So 4 seconds in, 4 second hold, 4 seconds out, 4 seconds hold, in, out. Same in that box. So if you can start learning these tools and skills, gratitude is huge. Something I haven't had a ton of growing up and into my 30s. It took me a lot of awareness to realize that my internal dialogue, although it gets me fired up, it's not the best for the longevity of me as an individual or for relationships and things like that too, whether it's friendships or because if you have enough of that like fiery negative dialogue, but you don't have any of the positive to balance it out, you're just internally lashing yourself over and over again. And that's not going to be healthy for us either. So overall, I'd say be happy for where you are, but just know there's always an opportunity for you to be a little better. Or I shouldn't even say better, but for you to get closer to your goals and become that individual that you want at the end of the day. That person you idolize, the person your family needs, the person that you need. And some of the ways to be able to fill that cup, we want a big, huge, most of us need a big, huge pitcher rather than just like a single cup nowadays. And to be able to fill that up, I firmly suggest finding a level of discipline you can handle and moving forward to make sure that you increase that discipline over time. I feel like you can have too much discipline or be too strict sometimes and it'll drive you crazy. So just find a balance to where you can handle it. If you need one shot on the weekend, or I don't suggest one shot every night. It's actually really bad for your gut health. But if you need like one shot on the weekends, it's a cheat meal, whatever that is to keep your sanity, but you can keep at least 70% of that discipline throughout the week. Go for that. And then, like I said, hydrating with electrolytes, huge. Water is empty by itself, distilled, purified water, even water rich with minerals, it's not enough. You got to put electrolytes, sea salt, something in there, and make sure it's a high-grade sea salt. I recommend Relight is one of my favorites for electrolytes. Other than that, try to eat 70% healthy meals like I was saying. And then try to get 7 to 9 hours of sleep if you can. If you can only get 6 per night, try to at least find 1 or 2 days where you can get 7 to 8. And then we all know if we're trying to go out and you're constantly going out, you're always doing stuff for other people. That's also going to burn you out. So just make sure you're doing stuff for yourself. It's okay to say no. And another thing that falls in line with boundary or discipline is boundaries. So learn to create boundaries for yourself and other people. And then if those people don't respect your boundaries or can't see you from the other side of that fence, then maybe those people don't need to be in your life right now. And those boundaries are set there for a reason. I just want you to all know that I believe in each and every one of you. And thank you for listening. This is Just in Our Minds. Have a good day, everybody.